Welcome, 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 all you catwalkers to the Catwalk. I'm your host, Jay Whitlow, missional entrepreneur and storyteller. Over the past 20 years, I've launched an international clean water organization, served as a local missions pastor, assisted our family business in moving forward with new growth, and was a co-owner of a local junior hockey organization. Today, I'm sitting behind this mic, creating a space for conversations, stories from people that matter. The Catwalk is presented by Performance Chemical, a specialty chemical service provider here in the Permian Basin. Catch the Catwalk October the 17th through the 19th at the Permian Basin International Oil Show at the Ector County Coliseum. And now here is today's episode.
From the PCC studios in Midland, it's The Catwalk, presented by Performance Chemical. Conversations connecting with industry executives, community leaders, nonprofit organizations, and social entrepreneurs.
Well, welcome again. This is The Catwalk, and I want to welcome our very special guest. This is Andrew Adams. How you doing, Andrew?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
We have been friends for, I tried to count it up today, about 15 years. Would that be about accurate?
15 years?
15 years, yeah. Because Carolyn you were at MCA.
Yeah.
And Carolyn was in grammar, and she's 23 now. So it's been 15 years, maybe.
No, it's 8 years.
It's 8 years? How do you figure 8 years?
I moved here in 2015.
In 2015,
so I'm going on my
8 years?
8 year.
So we've only known each other for 8 years?
Yeah.
Why does it feel like 15?
Do you feel cheated now?
I do feel cheated on. I felt like we've known each other forever.
Well, I'll take that as a compliment then.
Well, you know what? Our viewers and listeners don't know whether we've known each other for 15 years or 8 minutes. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us everything we need to know about Andrew.
Okay, well, we have to start when I was 3 years old. No, just kidding. So I grew up in Nebraska. I was born there.
I did not know that.
Oh, yeah. So my mother... whether I want to, I am born and raised as a Nebraska Cornhusker.
Really?
Yeah. And she'll always text me.
Tom Osborne.
Oh, yeah. He was a god. I lived in Nebraska during the championship, 95, 96.
The good years?
Right?
What did you say, Chris?
So where in Nebraska are you from?
So I was born in Scottsbluff, Nebraska, and then we moved to Springview, Nebraska. So Panhandle.
I lived in Kearney for a while.
Yeah.
Really?
My grandparents lived in Eustis, Nebraska, which was kind of in the mid-section, so.
Yeah, I used to run a TV station out of Kearney, Nebraska.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Huh.
The
Small
flyover
world.
states, we got to stay together, you know?
Well, since I don't know how to add on my years, when was it that you were in Nebraska?
I lived in Nebraska until I was about 13 years old,
Okay.
and then we moved to Colorado.
Okay.
And then we lived in Rocky Ford, Colorado, and then I moved to Kersey, Colorado, and then I moved to Chicago.
Okay, so
My dad was...
your dad.
My dad was, for a while, he just kind of worked in odd jobs. He started a truck company because repairing trucks, mostly tires and stuff, because a lady told him he couldn't do it. So that's the kind of guy he is.
Wait, a lady told him you
can't do something like that. So he does
and
it,
he
right?
did. That's crazy.
But then
are you like him in that way?
Oh, no.
No?
I wish I could fix things. That's not me. I can't
do that. Okay.
Can't do it.
So you didn't get that from your dad?
No, I did not get it from my dad, unfortunately.
Okay, so Colorado, 2 places in Colorado?
2 places in Colorado.
Then to Chicago.
Then in Chicago, yeah.
Okay.
Because my dad we lived on the dairy until I was about 6 or 7, and then he felt like he was called into full-time ministry.
Okay.
So he went with this organization called Village Missions.
Okay.
And they bring pastors to rural churches that are about to close their doors. And so that's how we got to these little tiny towns in Nebraska.
That's how you traveled.
Or Colorado. We just kind of would go and try to revitalize it.
Revitalize churches.
Yeah.
Because it sounded like at first I thought military or something of that nature you moved around, but it was...
In fact, Midland is the longest I've ever lived anywhere in my life. 8 years. Because before that it was 6, and then it was 4, and then it was 2.
Why does it feel like it's been more than 8 years? I'm just blown away by that.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so you ended up in Midland from Chicago.
No.
So there was somewhere else in between.
I went to Chicago.
Yeah.
Went to Moody Bible Institute.
Right.
And my roommate was a diehard Cubs fan.
Okay.
And I remember he would put his Cubs blanket. We lived on 19th floor in downtown Chicago at the dorm.
Oh, wow.
He would put his Cubs blanket out the window while we're listening to the game.
Okay.
And I remember that year. Man, what year was that?
Yeah, don't
It
get
was
me
the
adding
100.
up.
It was the 100. I think it was the 100-year anniversary of them losing.
Of the curse?
Yeah, of the curse.
curse.
And it was that year, and I was like, if they win, I'll be a diehard Cubs fan forever. Of course they didn't. But,
Of course not, yeah.
You know,
But
that's where I kind of like went to
who was
Cubs
your
games.
roommate?
His name was Steven Kellerstrath.
Steven.
Yeah.
And he hung the blanket out the
Yes.
window.
Yeah, and
on
while
Cub
they
games.
listened to it, while we
you're
listened to it on the
listening.
radio.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
So,
crazy. Okay.
yeah.
So that's where you fell in love with the Cubs.
Yep.
Okay, so
That's
sidebar.
where it is.
Sidebar. You're a huge Cubs fan.
I
Right?
I don't watch games like frequently.
You
but
used
like
to.
yeah, and I
Okay.
had like the.
Do you have Cubs
the-
gear
yeah,
at home?
I still do. I still do. I almost wore one.
Now you
tonight.
have two new children, correctly, or one relatively
have-
new,
Yeah, both 2 under 2.
2 under 2.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! So you have no time.
116
You have no time
no.
for Cubs games.
No, one's 16 months and the other is 6 weeks. Oh
Okay. Did you buy them any Cubs infant gear?
no.
Do they
I
have
didn't.
merch?
No, they don't have any merch.
They don't. You
No.
have Cubs merch though, right?
I do.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I do know
I had a
that
Cubs
like
hat, shirt, all that
right
stuff.
right after the second child was born, I sent you a text or something on a picture because you were reading, and I think he was asleep or something. And
Yeah,
you had
yeah,
your
yeah.
You were talking about Cubs history or something in the picture. I don't remember what it was.
Oh,
about.
I was wearing my Cubs shirt though.
Yes,
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah.
You were like, yeah, I'm training them up young, and I'm like, that's awesome. So I thought it'd be good if we just do a little Cubs trivia real quick.
Oh man.
While we're in the process of getting to know you, I
Okay,
think we
okay.
should do a little Cubs trivia. So,
Yikes.
who is called Mr. Cub?
Mr. Cub.
Is it Ernie Banks, Ryan Sandberg, or Ron Santo?
Ron Santo.
Ernie Banks.
Oh, I said
Ernie
that with
Banks is
such
Mr. Cub.
confidence, though. You know.
What animal kept the Cubs from the World Series for 71 years?
The goat.
Was it the grizzly bear?
Oh, sorry.
The goat, or the kangaroo?
The goat. Sorry, I forgot.
Chris,
I
did you
waited.
know
I
that
waited
one?
for the answer.
Did you know that answer?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah.
The
it's
goat?
why it's
I
called the
watched-
Curse of the Goat.
Yeah, it's the curse of the goat.
Did you know Cleet Sile? Did you ever know him? He
Yeah. Yeah.
We watched one time a documentary about that.
About the goat?
About
The curse.
Well, about the curse,
Yeah.
and it was about the guy that caught. It was during the playoff season, and he caught a ball. He was in the stands. He was wearing a headphones.
Yes,
and,
and
he caught the ball.
It interfered with the
yeah,
play.
yeah, and interfered
what
with
was
the
his name?
play.
Bartman.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
Bartman. The Bartman play.
fascinating, but
Yeah.
they had to take him out in security. They were gonna kill that guy.
I think they were.
They thought it was crazy.
Did you ever see a game there?
Yeah,
At
mhm.
Wrigley?
Oh, several
Okay.
times. Yeah.
Do you know the original name of Wrigley Field?
Mm.
Was it Wigham Park,
No, it's not that.
Cubs Park, or Waveland Stadium?
I want to say Waveland Stadium.
Wigham Park.
Weecombe
Yes,
Park?
Wigham Park. Isn't that crazy? What's the name of the Cubs mascot? Is it Cubby, Clark, or Wrigley?
It's Cubby.
Clark.
Clark?
We are in the
we
presence.
always say Cubbies.
I got my information from the internet.
Okay.
So it could be wrong.
The internet has to be true, right?
Okay, one last question. Now, this
Okay.
one I know you're going to know. Who was the name of the most famous Cubs pitcher in the movie Rookie of the Year? Do you remember that movie? It was about the kid who broke his arm, and he could throw really fast. Do you remember his
trying to-
name?
I don't think I saw that movie.
You never saw that movie?
I don't-
1993. It was Henry. I can't even think. Henry Rowengartner.
Henry Rowengartner.
Yeah, it was the little kid's name that was in that movie. So who is your favorite Cubs player of all time?
My favorite Cubs
you have a
player,
player?
of old time.
Of all time.
I don't got one.
Ron Santo?
Ron Santo.
I just love that name.
It's pretty
so
cool.
when you were there in what years?
I was there. I lived in Chicago from 2006 to 2010.
Okay, so that was that was the Bartman years.
Yeah.
That was crazy. Did you ever see him around town?
No, I never did.
If you would have seen him, what would you have done?
I would not have. I mean, come on, like it was a big, like
was
you didn't know that you were gonna do that, like.
It was in the moment.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
If you were in the moment, would you have caught that ball too?
I probably would have tried.
I probably would have done it too.
I mean,
so I
yeah.
can't really blame him.
And the ball, if I remember right, came into the stands. He didn't do a whole lot.
No, he just like
He didn't
it was-
jump into the
right, it
field
was
and
just-
get it.
he literally
just
did
that.
this.
Okay. All right. So you moved from after Moody.
Yeah.
You then moved to Midland.
No.
No.
I moved to California after that.
And now we're into California.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we started in Nebraska. We worked our way to Colorado.
Yes. Yep.
Then we went up to
Yep.
Chicago.
Yeah.
And then we went all the way over to California. What
Right.
was in California?
So I went to Biola University.
Okay.
It
So
stands
Moody
for-
and Biola.
It stands
Okay.
for Bible Institute of Los Angeles. A lot of people don't know that.
So like UCLA, it
Yeah.
was Biola.
Right.
Bible Institute of Los Angeles. And
yeah.
what did you do there?
I did a master's in New Testament studies because I said I didn't want to do the MDiv to be a pastor because I said I'd never be a pastor.
We'll get into that in a minute.
And so I was like, I'll just go and I'll be a
Right.
professor or teacher, teach Bible.
Sure.
But I don't want to be a pastor.
You're
you
right,
know? So
right.
I went to Talbot School of Theology, their
Okay.
grad school
Mhm.
there for a couple years, got my master's in New Testament studies. The original plan was to do a master's in Old Testament and then do a PhD.
Okay.
But man, I got really burnt out towards the end of my New Testament doing Greek and
Right,
Hebrew,
sure.
and I had to work to afford it, and by the end of it, I was dating this girl, and so I stuck around, and I tried to apply for all these youth pastor jobs, and nobody wanted me, so I ended up working at Disneyland.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, so I worked at Disneyland.
Okay. Okay. I don't have any Disney questions because I didn't know that one. Does he
Yeah.
look like a Disney worker?
Kind of, yeah.
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 If I were to be a character, which
Okay.
character
Oh, this
would
is a
I
question
be?
for us now.
Yeah, which character would I have been if I was a character at
I would think
You look like a grown-up Andy from Toy Story.
okay.
brilliant.
Yeah.
But did they have Toy Story at that time? Probably
They
not.
did.
They did?
Yeah. hmm
Gosh, I'm so
Wait,
old.
you got to show us the Disney point.
The Disney point.
Disney point where you point with the two fingers.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't have to. I'll tell you what I did.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I didn't have to.
Wait,
ever
let
do
me
that.
guess. I think you were you a character?
No, I wasn't.
You weren't. You were but they call them cast members, right?
Yep.
No matter where you were.
Yes.
You-
Janitorial or
like-
whatever.
Did you work in like retail?
No,
Oh.
I did work in the entertainment department.
Okay. Were you but you weren't a you weren't a character.
Character, yeah.
Okay. You didn't run a ride.
No.
Okay. So you were a singer on the street. You were in the quartet.
No. No, so my job actually was called show services support. So I supported the entertainment. So here's what I did. I went there and I said,
This is amazing.
I went to apply for this job and I found one that was like washing the laundry. So you got to wash all the characters' clothes and stuff.
So you
And it
got to
was
wash Mickey
40
Mouse? His
right.
head and
Well,
and,
not the head, but like
yeah,
everything
the
else. Yeah, yeah.
clothes and yeah.
And so I went and applied for that.
That's crazy.
You know, because it was full time.
Yeah.
And I get into the interview with the lady, and she's like, "You're not qualified to run the commercial laundry machines."
What?
And I'm like,
You just put a quarter in,
"Yeah,
turn
how
and
am
go.
I not qualified?"
Yeah,
I
put some
couldn't
powder
actually.
in.
But she's like, "What do you think about these two positions instead?" And so I have to on the fly decide. And two of them were, one was the job I picked, the other one was a parade driver, that I would drive one of the parade
Ooh,
floats through.
brilliant.
But it was you could only work between, the parades don't go all the time.
Yeah, they're usually late at
Yeah,
night or
in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And so those are the only shifts you could choose. Or
Right.
the other job was more consistent shifts.
Okay.
So I chose
You
that
weren't
one.
qualified
Off the-
to do laundry.
Right?
What
And
does
you
your
know what
wife
I
say
found
about
out?
that now?
You know what I found out about that?
Yeah.
The reason she said she was being very politically correct, because when I got in there and like my job was to take like some of the laundry to
Right.
where it needed to be like washed, so I got to actually interact with the people there.
Okay.
Not one of them spoke English.
Oh, no.
So when I wasn't qualified to run the laundry, it was because of my language skills, not because of my button pushing skills.
Really?
Yeah, because everyone there spoke Spanish.
So you don't wash the clothes at home now, right?
Yeah, that's what I tell. Like, I'm not qualified.
I'm not qualified. That's brilliant. I've got to figure that one out.
Yeah.
I got to figure out a way to take that one
Right.
out. Okay,
Yeah, so my job there was just to drive. I did any type of driving that the entertainment department needed. You drive the parade tram of all the people to one side
the
so they
floats
can get
and
out.
stuff, and
Or I would take, the bands that they would have on the weekend. I would go unload all their stuff, bring it in. We would take ice buckets to every single break room.
How long did you do this?
I did it for 9 months before I quit.
9 months.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
9 months.
Okay, so after your stint at Disney,
Yeah.
then where across the country did we go?
Well, I actually went back to Chicago.
Okay.
Because I thought, Chicago was like...
This would be the craziest looking map if we tried to draw it right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going back to
I
Chicago.
moved back to Chicago.
Yeah.
I worked for Latin School Chicago. It was kind of a unofficial Jewish school in downtown because they would take all the Jewish holidays off.
Right.
And so I just worked security there because downtown Chicago, helping kids get in and out. And I worked I remember standing there with the blowing snow, standing outside saying, I've got to make a change in my life. This is not what. And I didn't come there to do that.
That was a pivotal moment.
It was because, see, there's this sermon by Tim Keller about Rachel and Leah and Jacob, right? And he talks about it in it like, you think in life you're going to get this Rachel and it's going to be everything that you want. And you wake up in the morning and it turns out to be Leah. It turns out to be less than what you wanted.
Right.
So for me, moving back to Chicago was my Rachel. Man, if I just can get back to Rachel, Chicago, it'll be my Rachel. I'll have the job I want. Certain things will work out in my life, and none of it worked out. It turned out to be like Leah in my life. And so it was really kind of a low point, for me, even just thinking spiritually, like, am I that immature of a Christian that my circumstances, which weren't terrible.
Right.
I broke up with a girlfriend. I didn't get the job I wanted. My boss is the worst. But nothing I wasn't suffering.
Right.
But
right.
that was a really trying time in my faith.
And this was a sermon by Tim Keller.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that sermon still available for people to find?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think it's called The Struggle for Love.
The Struggle for Love.
Yeah, by Tim
Okay.
Keller.
Wow. Okay. So you're in Chicago and you're having this moment.
Right.
Right. And you're realizing.
I'm just struggling through it. And then I went to church at Moody Church one time, and it was Erwin Lutzer was the preacher there. And as the guy was leading worship, his string breaks during the worship. And the pastor gets up and says, sometimes we feel that way, right? We're broken, the string and whatever. But he said, but God's still worthy of our worship, regardless of whether we're broken,
right?
Whether and that would really just that's where I felt kind of broken at that point.
Was that aha moment, that spiritual connection?
Yeah, it was.
I wouldn't say
that oh man, the next day was just glorious.
I still went,
because I still went to the same job, but it was a pivotal moment in my life.
So what began to turn then?
My thought process, my just kind of, I would say I would diagnose myself as not a doctor, but as circumstantial depression. If that's such a thing. All my circumstances in my life just weren't working out. And so I just felt depressed about it. And I think that's where it started to change and shift. Okay. And so while I was at Moody's down the street, but in Chicago, one of my jobs is there is you sit at the desk and you check people in during the day that I was to come to school. Super boring. You just kind of sit there at the computer.
Total.
So I started just surfing for other jobs. And I went on Moody's
on the company
jobs.
time.
I know. I'm not. I do not condone that, but yes. And so I started searching for jobs, and that's where I went to Moody's website, job searches, and they said Bible teacher in Nigeria.
In Nigeria.
Yeah, in Nigeria. And so
I applied. Is the map about to go across now?
So I applied to Nigeria to work at the school, and of course the lady who interviewed me was like, I just have to touch you at the end that, have you heard of Boko Haram, the terrorist group that lives in our area?
Yeah.
And I said, no, I never have. And so she thought this was going to be the end. And I said, no, I'm still in. I feel like God wants me to do that. It's better than standing in the blowing snow in Chicago. No, I didn't say that.
Yeah. Or working at
yeah,
Disneyland.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah,
Disneyland.
Yeah.
And so I went and I moved to Nigeria and I was the
In what
Bible
year?
teacher. This was in 2013.
2000. Okay, so this is getting close to the time you moved over here.
Yeah.
Because remember, we've known each other for 15
yeah,
years.
we've known each other for 15 years, right? Yeah.
Wow, my math. Okay, so you're in
So-
Nigeria. What did God show you there?
Oh man, it was an amazing experience, but it was hard. It was really hard. It was my first semester to ever teach full time, and I couldn't get there on time because of my visa. Like they just
some
it just
travel
stalled
problems,
stalled
yeah.
out, stalled out. So I came in halfway through the semester because when I finally got
Right.
there. So that was just a chaotic semester, right?
Sure.
And then the next semester, Ebola crisis. Do you remember that?
I do.
I was over there in Africa during that time, and so everything just shut down.
Yeah.
And we were still trying to do packets to the kids without internet, and
Right.
it was just
What
it was a
month? What
disaster.
month was it in 2013?
It was was that still 2013? Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was.
because I was in the Central African Republic
Oh, really? You were too?
in May of 2013.
I think it was the fall.
So you were
That
there
it,
in
like,
the fall of
was
2013.
peaked,
Yeah,
all
because
that.
I don't remember too much of the. I remember the Ebola, but not when I was there.
Right. Yeah, I think it was the
stuff,
fall
so-
is when it.
That's when
hit
I was
everywhere.
doing the drilling for water, clean water,
yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
over there in
Nice.
2013.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you finished up that
Yeah.
tour of duty over there.
Yeah, because the next semester was even harder because they had a presidential election, and the Muslim was going against the Christian,
Right.
and if the Muslim lost, there was going to be major riots.
Right. Civil War or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah. And so we kind of shut school down for another month,
Yeah.
but fortunately the Muslim guy won, so there was no major issue.
Now, from that time, did God kind of reveal to you that it was time to come back to the States, or how did that
Yeah, so I
transpire?
was I was actually going to stay on another year.
Right.
And stay there, but they still didn't give me the contract. And then I don't know if you know Johnny Custer from MCA.
I do.
He calls me up and says, "Hey, we were roommates
Right.
at Biola time in California."
Okay, that's the connection.
And that's the connection.
Yeah.
And he was back in Midland teaching at MCA, and he said,
Okay.
"Hey, we always talked about living together and doing ministry
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. Do you want to come teach at my school? I've got an opening." I said, "Well, I was planning on staying another year, but they still don't give me a contract. Let's go down the road and
Yeah.
see." And the next thing I knew, I was moving to MCA starting
So you moved
August
to Midland
2015.
in 2015.
It
Okay.
was so hot that day. My first day in Midland.
Was
I felt
it's
like
first
the
time in Texas.
gates of hell were like opening up close to here. It was
Don't
so
say that
hot.
very loud.
Yeah, right.
Don't say that. All the Midlanders will be like, "What?"
So wait, you
yeah.
moved here in 2015.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out how Jay got 15 years.
Of course. Well, my math is
Math is
a
hard.
little off.
Math is hard.
Math is hard.
Yeah.
Math is a wonderful thing.
Right.
What's that movie that Jack Black's in where he sings the math song, School of
School of
Rock?
Rock.
Yes,
Yeah.
love that. So yeah, math was always incredibly hard for me. So we're past that. Thank you, Chris, for bringing that up. We're past that. I didn't put my math in there together. So you're at Midland Classical, 2015,
Classic, yep.
the hottest day of the year.
Yeah.
Extremely hot. Walk me through that whole journey of MCA.
Yeah. So it was wonderful, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Like coming in to a new place where you don't know anyone, to step into that community that was already
Right.
built in was just huge. The people here are phenomenal, and they're just
Still are phenomenal.
Still are.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't say past tense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just amazing to step into a community like that with just some amazing people, and just I loved it. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved being here.
What'd you teach?
So I taught Greek 1, Greek 2, New Testament, Bible literature. I taught American history. I taught advanced literature. MCA, you kind of have to do a little bit of everything.
You got to put your toe in the
Yeah.
water in a lot of
Yeah.
places. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
'Cause Carolyn took you for one or two classes, I think.
I think it was for one of the Great Books classes.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
how we. That's how we
Yeah.
met.
Mhm.
Was
Yeah.
being an MCA parent. And you
then
being
I
an
think
MCA tutor.
also she, as a senior, I was helping with the assembly, and she was part of all that, and
the
so worked
assembly
with her a
team.
lot.
Did you
know,
work
so.
on her oral at all? Her oral presentation?
I don't think
I don't
so.
remember.
I don't think I was one of them.
You know, at MCA, a senior has to do an oral presentation. You know, and some of our listeners and viewers may not know much about MCA structure, but that's something that every senior, and that was a great thing for her to do. I think it really prepared her for college.
Oh, yeah.
You know, to be able to do that and to defend that presentation in front of you know, her peers and stuff. So that was a great thing. Okay, so you're at MCA.
Yep.
You're teaching all over the place.
Right.
What was one of the biggest memories of your time at MCA? Because I want to get to the last few minutes with where you're at now.
Yeah.
But what was maybe that one memory where God really did something big for you while you were at MCA?
Oh, that's a good question.
I know there were probably a lot of small moments.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, one of the it was probably hard, but good things that, I mean, walking alongside some of my senior assistants that were not doing well.
Yeah.
And just walking with them and discipling them, it had a huge impact on me.
Yeah.
You know, just to love those kids on a daily basis, even the one that, like, he didn't make it, right? But to just know that you've poured your heart and soul into them.
Yeah.
It's huge. Like,
so you were basically pastoring them in some way.
That's what I did a lot
Yeah.
of, you know, even at the school. Like, my door was always just open with kids coming in and talking about what's going on in their spiritual life or hanging out, having a good time too. Like, it wasn't always just come here for
go to the principal's office.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But just building those deep relationships that I still have with, like, a couple weeks ago I went to lunch with one of my old students.
Yeah.
That I still have. We talked about theology.
Right,
We just cut it up a little bit, but I still have some deep friendships that have grown out of some of my students. In fact, I married 3 or 4 of my old students too.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I remember most about MCA, you know, my other 2, Reese and Krista, didn't finish there. They went to online with
Liberty, right?
School. Liberty, yeah. But the grammar was great for them until they got to that point where we had to make that transition. But that was one thing that I really truly appreciated the most about MCA was the tutor, teacher, to the student. They really cared and they really poured into them.
Right.
It wasn't a job, it was a ministry.
Right.
It was something that I want to be involved in their life. You know, a lot of times when you're a student at school, you just run them through, right? Let's just run them through. It's another semester. And it just didn't feel that way with the faculty and the teachers that were there. I've had Jeff Patterson on the show.
Oh, yeah. Great
and Jeff
guy.
talked about the same kind of
We
thing.
were contemporaries for a while.
Really?
Yeah.
He's been to people's weddings. He's been to their
Yeah.
football games past their time. You know, a lot of times your student leaves and you forget about it because you got to move on to the next one. But there were some really good, solid friendships and relationships there. I know Chris Shaw was very influential.
He was
in
one
our
of my
family.
roommates while
Was
I was there too.
Yeah.
For one
Love
year we
to-
overlapped.
That's a sidebar. Would love to find out where he's at now and stuff. So, okay, so you're
one
at...
of the things that one last thing about MCA, I don't know if they say it anymore, but they used to say, we are a discipleship program disguised as a school. And that, I really took that seriously.
That's a great assessment. Yeah, it's a great word. So you're teaching there.
Yeah.
And then God begins to do something into you because you said you never wanted to go to school to be a pastor.
Yeah.
And now you sit in a chair, right?
Yep.
And so tell us about that transition. What did God reveal to you to move you into a pastoral leadership role?
I would say my time in Nigeria, the Lord I started preaching and teaching a little bit at this church that was there. And the Lord kind of opened my eyes to being at least open to it. where before I was always closed off and I never wanted to be a pastor. I saw kind of the dark side of,
and there's a dark side of it.
Like the underbelly.
I'm a recovering church
right.
staff member.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And all that stuff just made me not want to do it. I finally was like at least open to it, but it was like down the road, way, way in the future.
Yeah.
And so when I was at MCA, my third year I was there, it was in that third year I really sensed that God was calling me to move on. Like I had felt him with everywhere else, like Nigeria and everything. I just sensed God said the fourth year that I was there was going to be my last year, and that God was going to move me on. And in my mind, as you can see the map we've been following, that meant out of Midland, right?
Right.
And so that was in October of that year that I was sitting in my bed, and they had asked me to preach at MCA at the assembly on singleness and the gospel. And I didn't know if I should be flattered or offended,
Singleness and the gospel, okay.
And so
to a single guy.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so I was like, all right, any chance to preach the gospel, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So I was listening to particularly Matt Chandler. I was listening to a bunch of guys on
the Village.
singleness, the Village.
Church,
I was listening to a bunch of pastors. I listened to Matt Chandler. He's kind of direct,
Yeah.
And in one of his sermons, I was laying on my bed here in Midland listening to it, and he said, some of you are not doing what God has called you to do because you think you have to be married first. I'm calling you out pretty much. Like, you go out and you do what God's called you to do, and people will follow you and do what God's called you to do. Because at the time I had said to the Lord, okay, Lord, I will be a pastor. By the time I got to MCA, I had surrendered enough to saying, okay, I know that's my gifting, that's my calling, but when I'm married, I'll do it when I'm married.
Right.
And that the Holy Spirit used his sermon in that clip just to hit me like a ton of bricks.
Wow.
And in that moment I said, okay, Lord, I'll be a single pastor, even though who wants a single pastor? If they've got an application size this high, they're chucking out the single guy right off the bat.
Where's the single guy?
Yeah.
That worked at Disneyland.
That's the guy we
wash
want.
clothes.
Can we have him, right?
Let's pick that guy.
Right? And so, I was still
That's
immature.
funny.
I was making conditions on God.
What year is this?
This was 2017, in the fall, so it was right before 2018.
Yeah.
Or no, it was the end of 2018. Somewhere in that period, right?
It was before we got to the 20s when
right.
the world went bonkers.
And so I said, okay, Lord, I'm open to being a single pastor, but I'm not going to look. I'm teaching here at the school. If you want me to be a pastor of a church, you're going to have to throw it in my lap.
Right.
So that was October. I did that. November, the senior pastor at Midland Bible Church resigns and quits. And then in December, Ken Beatty was one of the elders at Midland Bible.
Right.
I had taught his daughter. And in fact, when she was sitting in the service while he was resigning, she's texting her dad, Dad, can Andrew come be our next pastor?
Yeah.
So he asked me, hey, can you come help us fill the pulpit?
Groundwork was being laid out in the process. Yeah.
And so he said, why don't you come over and just preach while we're starting a search committee. We're looking for a guy.
Yeah.
And so I was going to Billy Ray's church, Sovereign Grace.
Okay,
and I asked the elders permission to go over to Midland Bible.
Yeah.
And they gave me permission, and they prayed over me from the front and sent me over,
That's
almost like a
awesome.
missionary.
Yeah.
to Midland
Across the
Bible.
street.
Yeah, right.
Literally.
And so I moved over, and I would preach every once in a while for them, and they had fired up a search committee, and they were looking for guys, and I wasn't one of them. And so by the end of the summer, they had turned down every one of their applicants, and they were starting from scratch after doing it for like 6 months or something.
Right.
And so
God just has not dropped that person into them yet.
Right. And so, I was good friends. One of the ladies on the search committee, I had her son. So I kind of, she would tell me what's going on. I said to them, well, how about we do this? Like, you guys they want to try a new model where they moved away from a senior pastor, and they were more elder-led, and they didn't have the guy at the top. I said, and they wanted to get somebody who preached like 60% of the time, and then they had a teaching team. And I said, why don't we I'll be your interim preaching pastor for a year, and you try that out. And while I'm doing that, you start up the search committee, and then when you find the guy, I'll sail away into the sunset. That was my plan.
That was the plan.
So I proposed.
That
it
was
to
your
them.
plan.
That was my plan. I proposed it to
Yeah.
her and the search committee. She went to the search committee. It's summer.
And you're still
everybody's-
single.
I'm still
Still
single.
single. Okay,
Still
yeah.
single. So she gives it to the search committee, and they don't get back to her because it's summer. You know how
Right,
it is in
sure.
Midland. Everyone's gone in summer. And so she just goes to the elders. The elders think it's a great idea. Yeah, let's do it.
Right.
And then the head of the search committee comes back, and he's upset. And he said, no, like, why did you have us if the elders are just going to go around here? Like, we want him to apply for the position.
Wow.
So one of the elders calls me up and says, yeah, we're going to do it. 2 days later, he's like, actually, no, we want you to apply for the position. The head guy's search committee's not happy. He wants us to go do that. And I said, well, that wasn't the deal.
Yeah.
We were supposed to date for a year and break up, and now you're asking me
Yeah.
to marry you.
Right. That was
and
not
so-
my plan.
Right. And I told
Remember
him I
what
had to
my
go,
plan was?
And so I told him I had to go away and pray about it. I
Yeah.
didn't say yes. But you
Sure.
know what the Holy Spirit said to me?
Yeah.
Well, you told me that if I put it in your lap, you would do it.
Yeah.
And so all my counsel said, just walk through the door and see what happens.
Yeah.
So I went through the process, and I had to defend my singleness in the search committee
Oh, wow.
of why you think you're the best since you're single. And I really just laid it to him a little bit. I said, well, you know, Paul was single, and he spoke a lot about marriage and different stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, this guy that we worship and adore, he was single.
Bingo.
So I really just kind of laid it all out. I
Yeah.
said, listen, as a single guy, I have the ability to do some ministry. I can jump on a plane with
Sure.
missions
There's some
tomorrow.
great benefits,
There's
too.
some stuff I can
Yeah.
do right now that I couldn't with a family, and just so I laid it all out there. And I didn't hear anything for almost a month. And so I finally went to my friend. She was on. Hey, if it's a no, can you just tell me so I can start thinking through what my
No communication is not
right.
good.
Yeah. And so they called back and like, hey, no. The head guy said, no. Yeah. We've been working through something. It's just you and one other guy.
Yeah.
We're down. We didn't say no to you. We're still thinking and praying through it. And so I was preaching through the book of Philippians for him that summer, and he was coming.
Yeah.
To candidate. So I was like, do you want me to not preach that Sunday? Like, no, it's fine. I'm like, okay. Like,
Okay. Something's
so,
up.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's down to us, these last two, and he doesn't show up because he takes another church. He's actively looking, right?
Okay.
He takes another church in Florida or somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm the only guy standing because I wasn't looking anywhere
You're
else.
it.
You know? And so...
It has to be you.
Well, you would think. And so the search committee got back together. They were praying between the two.
Yeah.
And even then, one of them on the search committee was like, I don't know. He's single.
Uh-oh.
And it had to be unanimous.
Plays
You
a
know,
single
it goes,
card
you
on
know, those
you,
things. You know? And so they had to go away and pray for another 2 weeks
Yeah.
to decide. I'm
Sure.
the only one left, but they have to decide whether they're going to say yes.
Sure.
And the one person that was like, I don't know, he's single, came back and said, it's almost as if the Lord spoke audibly to me that Andrew's supposed to be our next pastor. And that's kind of how I got there. After I came on staff a couple of years later, I had two of the spouses that were on the search, their spouse on the search committee come to me and say, I told them not to vote for you because you were single. So there was a lot of opposition. So the fact that I was even there, I felt like God just led me
That was
there.
a God thing.
God opened all the doors.
Now, funny story, you're married now.
I am married now. Yeah.
Because you mentioned earlier about having 2 kids.
Yeah.
We've not talked about the wife. So briefly tell us her name.
Yeah.
And how did you guys meet?
So my wife's name's Katrina. My name's Andrew. So hurricanes, that's how you remember. The perfect storm.
There it is.
And
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions on
About
hurricanes either,
Oh,
so,
man.
yeah.
So my mother is really good friends with her aunt.
Okay.
And so her aunt asked if she had just moved back from Thailand after being a missionary over there for 4 years.
In Thailand.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thailand. So she just
Did
moved
she ever
back.
work at Disneyland?
In Thailand? I don't think so.
No.
Do they have
Or
one in
back
Thailand?
here?
No, she
Okay.
didn't.
I was just checking.
Unfortunately, yeah. And so she moved back here, and her aunt said, hey, can I give your number to my friend? She has a son.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to hook you up for years, but he's lived in Nigeria, and then when he moved back, you moved to Thailand, and this is the first time you're both on the same continent.
Right.
And so,
which is important in a
it kinda
dating
is a big
relationship.
deal. It is
Yeah.
kind of a big deal. And so she said yes, and my mom gave me her number.
Yeah.
This is not the first time my mom has tried to set me up.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
I sat on the number for about 3 weeks. Because at the time,
You didn't want to play too fast.
Wally, who's the worship guy at our church,
Yeah,
he had tried to hook me up with,
Yeah.
he had tried to hook me up with his wife's, what's it called, maid of honor.
Okay.
And so I was talking to her at the time.
Yeah.
And my mom goes, Mom, I can't talk to 2 girls. at
Oh,
once."
Mom just kept pushing that number.
Yeah, she's pushing it.
Oh.
And so this other girl was supposed to stay down in Houston.
Yeah.
Or she was flying back to Houston, but she got delayed here.
Sure.
And she thought she would stay the night, and we'd actually go on a physical date because we'd only done FaceTime a couple times. And so I said, well, Lord, if you want this to happen, force her down here in Midland.
Figure this out, yeah.
And she flew out to Houston, and I was like, okay, I'm going to call the one that my mom wants me. And I really honestly was doing it because I said, I get my mom off my back, right? I'm going to FaceTime her once, and that's it. And I FaceTime her.
And you want to please your mom.
night.
So.
Yeah. And I FaceTime her every night after that.
Oh, wow.
And then I flew up to see her in October.
Yeah.
And then she was ready to move down here. And I'm like, whoa.
Okay.
Because, like, as
Tap
a
the
pastor,
brakes.
like, it was complicated for me. Like, if I'm going to bring you down as my girlfriend, I wanted to make sure I wanted to marry you. Because it was just navigating those waters as a pastor was something that I didn't want to do unless I was sure. And so we started dating, and then...
You started dating what year?
We dated in October of 19.
Okay.
So I came on full-time at the church in the summer of 19.
Right.
And then
that's
I
right.
met her in September, October-ish.
Okay.
We started dating long distance. And then in February 1st, like, she moved down.
Yeah.
And at that point, so I got engaged to her.
But you knew that y'all were going to get married at that time, right?
Yeah.
You knew.
So I got engaged to her on leap year day,
Really?
February.
Can you actually
29th.
count that?
Well,
as
every
a
4
date?
years.
Yeah, every 4 years.
4 years, I guess.
So you've only been married for how long now?
Engaged.
Oh,
that was
engaged. Okay, yeah.
So we did it on the top of.
Remember, Chris, it's my bad.
Yeah, the math.
It's my
Math
bad
is hard,
math
right?
over here. So yeah, okay.
So we got,
so you got engaged
on top of Guadalupe Peak because she loves mountains. She's climbed so
good.
many 14ers that she, like, I don't know how many, like 30.
Yeah.
And so I said, where am I going to find a mountain to get engaged? That was the closest. So we got engaged then.
A mountain in
that was
Midland.
the last of February, and then you know what happened middle of March, 2020.
The world went bonkers.
It just went crazy.
Yeah.
And it was really hard on her because she just moved down here.
Yeah.
And although Midland community is great,
Right.
it was not a great time
Still
to try to
different,
get to know the community.
Because no one knew what was going on.
And everyone just kind of shuddered, and it was
Right.
just a scary time for everybody. So she basically had me, and it's just hard for her, especially when I got real sick for a while myself.
Right.
Before we kind of knew what was going on.
Knew what was up. Yeah.
And so we decided, come hell or high water, we were going to get married that summer. Because it you know how much it fluctuated, like how many people could gather at certain times and everything.
Right.
So by the time we were going to get married in the mountains where she's from, she really loves me when she's from the mountains of Colorado and she's willing to move down here. And I don't work in the oil field.
Right.
So there's not like the money flowing.
Yeah. That's true.
And so we got married in the mountains in Colorado, 50 people. That was all we were allowed because of the county, and it was sweet. It was a beautiful time.
Yeah.
Loved it. Then we bought a house during 2020 as well in October because 2.9% interest,
Yeah, you got to jump on that, yeah.
And so, and now we had 2 kids. We have Azariah. His name means the Lord is my help. Most people know that name from the book of Daniel.
Right.
And his pagan name, which is Abednego.
Uh-huh.
So we're hoping he will be like Azariah of old. And then we just had baby Judson. And we named him after Adoniram Judson, the famous missionary to Burma.
Right.
I almost,
I remember this story, yeah.
Halfway through, I was going to name him
Adoniram. I know you are.
And I spared him, so.
Yeah, you spared him.
I know, right?
My dad spared me, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And so you're pastor of Midland Bible Church. And so real briefly, tell me just what do you want the church to be known for in the community?
Ooh, yeah, that's great. That's a great thing. I want the church to know that, or I want the people to know about our church that we love them. Recently we did a campaign where I spoke about immigration at our church, and we started to work with Emmanuel Baptist Church here in town, and just they're working a lot with the immigrants and just trying to get involved. How do we love more the people that are moving here and the people that are vulnerable? And we're doing a country fair soon, just open to the public, free to everyone. Right. How do we love people? Do they see that we care about them so that we can share Christ with them eventually, but by how we live our life? So we've really tried to get involved in those areas, like working with the Baptist Crisis Center. Great ministry. We've started like doing jean drives, especially for guys. Right. Because there's a lot of women's stuff, but like work pants, they said we need that.
That's a great idea.
And so we've kind of like filled that need, and just, we've tried to just, I would say since I've come on with Randy, we both just worked so hard at, I would say that sometimes the church was a little more insular in the past, and we've tried to be more open and saying, how do we reach out and care and love our community?
Well, I think God's doing some great things there. I hear great things about the church. I've been there a couple times. And again, we've known each other for a few years.
Between 15 and 8 years, right?
Somewhere around that time frame. Can you stay another minute or two?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And now, Every Neighbor presents Why Today Doesn't Suck.
Well, this is the beginning of October, and we can put September to bed, which is great. September was National Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month, and so the Catwalk always want to make sure that people that are listening, people that are watching, that we come in contact with, that you may share this podcast with, that everyone feels valuable. Everybody is loved. I think it was great that you shared earlier in the show about the church wants to be known in the community for loving people. Right. I want to be known, as probably you do, for loving people, no matter what their background, no matter what struggle they may be having, where they're from, what language they speak, whatever it is. If you're struggling with mental health, you're struggling with the depression, anxiety, we want you to know that there's help, that people love you, and that you're valuable. So who would you say right now in your life that you want to just recognize, that you just want to give a shout out to, that you want to say, hey, today is a great day because of this person?
Oh, yeah. Well, you talked about like some of those things that you deal with that are difficult and hard. I think one of them is Carl Moore is doing such a great job with, it's called Regeneration. Okay. And it's just a program. It's a discipleship program where you work on deep-seated things in your life. Suicide could be one of them. Substance abuse could be pride. Right. There's all kinds of things. And he just has a program that he's trying to take everywhere in the Permian Basin and just see people become truly healthy that way.
That's awesome. Can we share his information on the show notes?
Absolutely.
So people can get in contact with him. That's awesome. I appreciate that. I want to give a shout out to my son. Reese turned 21.
21 today?
Yesterday.
Wow.
And so it's a big day.
What's he up to now?
He is a student at Tech.
Okay.
Wreckham. And turned 21, and just grateful for him and what he's doing.
That's
and
awesome.
And what he's working toward, wanting to be in culinary and wants to own his own restaurant, and it's just a fabulous thing. So I'm going to give a shout out to him. Hey, we always do a couple of questions, and we've got just a little bit of time.
Okay.
So can we do some fun questions?
Let's do it.
Okay, great. I want to also tell you that today is National Smarties Day. Are you a big Smarties fan? Chris, I know you love Smarties.
I love Smarties.
I know you love Smarties. There's some Smarties here. Why don't you take one?
Okay.
We can sample. I'm going to toss one over here.
Try it.
To Chris. Let me give you a little history of the Smarties. The Smarties came to us after the World War II. A guy by the name of Edward D. brought over one of those machines that packs gunpowder into ammunition.
Yeah.
He took that machine and created these.
It kind of tastes gunpowdery.
There's 6 flavors. Chris, do you know the 6 flavors?
They all just taste like sugar.
They all just taste like
They do.
sugar.
It's like a what is it?
But powdery.
Liquid.
There's six
It's
flavors.
kind of tartish. There's a little tart
It is.
to it too.
Well, there's 6 flavors, and they pack them randomly. But there's white, which is orange vanilla.
I was about to say, white is not a flavor.
It's white. It's orange vanilla legally.
say no
There's
to that?
strawberry. There's cherry. There's pineapple. Smarties are awesome, but did you know you can't call them Smarties in Canada?
Why?
They're called Rockets. I don't know why. I could not find that in the internets. But they call them Rockets.
Huh.
But they put them in this little packet, kind of
Wait,
like
do they call them
like
rockets
a bullet.
up there? Because it says Smarties right
Yeah,
on
in
here.
Canada it says Rockets, but
Oh.
in the U.S. they package it like this because it's like a bullet.
Oh,
See?
okay. Yeah, yeah.
So, and I got to get some. I'm gonna ask you a question. In fact, you do the question first.
Okay.
How about that? So I can eat a Smartie. And
All
Chris,
right,
you
you
jump in if you want to answer any of these. Okay. What's the first question? We'll just do a couple of these.
There we go.
We'll just
There
do one
goes
or
the
two
question.
off the floor.
How many gas stations would you say are in the United States of America?
17,341.
That was so confident.
You have to. You have to present it.
Yeah, you
confidently.
got to. So, does anyone have the answer to that?
17,632. No, I don't know. I would think, well, you would have to look at every state, and then you would have to look at every city, and then you would have to look at, there's at least, how many gas stations are in Midland? Like 150?
Oh, yeah, right.
So multiply that. That's the craziest question I think anybody could answer. But I love his answer because it was quick. It was quick and,
Yeah, he just
and right
went
on
for
to
it.
it. So I'm gonna see if I can you reach down and get those questions? Gas
The
stations.
NA
Wait, you have it? You looked it up?
The NACS, the Association for Convenience and Fuel Retailing,
Oh my
reports
gosh.
that there are
Of
more
course.
than 145,000 fueling stations.
145,000?
Yep.
Wow.
Oh wow. Okay, next question. You are a new addition to the crayon box. What color would you be, and why?
Magenta.
Why magenta?
Well, it just sounds very mysterious.
It also sounds manly.
Yeah.
Magenta, right, Chris? I know what. Yeah, I don't even know what color you'd be.
Yeah, what color?
Go ahead.
I don't know.
It's probably some shade of tan.
Yeah. Bland beige.
Bland beige. I knew it. Okay, one more, Andrew. This is
Okay.
the big question of the day.
Here it is, the big question. In a small room, you have a refrigerator. If you left the door of the refrigerator open, would the temperature in the room fall, or would the temperature in the fridge rise? Why?
Temperature in the fridge would rise.
Why?
If you compare.
You're answering these too quick. You must know the question.
No.
No,
you-
okay.
So if you have a small room,
Yeah.
refrigerator in the room, the what would you call it? The refrigeration device is only powered for a small space.
Smarty. He's a smarty.
If you look at the air conditioning that is cooling the room, or the heater that's heating the room, is built for a room, so it's obviously built for a house. It's producing more power to heat that space.
That's a brilliant assessment to that answer.
And
I
think
would
that's
say, you just say to smart. I would say that my refrigerator temperature would go up because it's so hot in Midland that it was hard this summer to keep my house cool. You know,
Right.
so I would think the temperature would go up. Are you looking at another question? You want to answer another one, don't you? Go ahead. One more.
If you're given a monkey,
Okay, wait. If you're given a monkey is enough right there. Okay, sorry.
you cannot sell it or give it away. What do you do with the monkey?
I can't give it away and I can't sell
You
it.
cannot sell it or give it away.
I would train it to be my yuck monkey and name him Chris.
Yuck.
Oh.
Boom. Mic drop. What would you do?
So have you heard of Stanley Marsh out of Amarillo?
Whoa.
Fun story about the monkey.
Okay.
So a guy bought a monkey at a pet store, and the monkey died like a couple days later.
What? That's not funny.
No, wait, just wait for it. The monkey passed away due to illness. Guy took the dead monkey back to the pet store and said, "Hey, you sold me a bad monkey." And the guy's like, "I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do for you. Like,
Yeah.
the monkey died. I didn't know it was sick."
Uh-oh.
And so he goes, but there's a guy down the road. This guy is well-known, oil industry, kind of kooky artist, really rich guy.
Yeah.
He said, take the monkey down to him. I bet he'll buy it off of you.
But the monkey's dead.
Just wait. Just wait.
I'm trying to follow. Remember, I'm grandpa here.
And takes it to Stanley, sells him the monkey. He buys it. He dips the monkey in gold and puts it on top of his flagpole on his property.
What?
So
Wow.
there was a golden monkey on the top of his flagpole.
I don't. Is this a
eccentric.
true story?
Everyone in Amarillo tells this story, so I'm just going to take it as
it's
it is.
Amarillo. I forgot. It's
Okay,
Amarillo.
okay.
They have the big Texan, so yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
What would you do with a monkey?
I'd probably eat it.
You've been to Nigeria, so you
Well,
probably
you know.
have eaten some really weird stuff
Maybe.
there, right?
Have you ever had monkey before?
No, I've had boa. I've
Yeah.
not had monkey.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, if I can't sell it, I can't. Like, monkeys are kind of dirty to keep around.
they are dirty.
They're
They
very
play
high maintenance, too.
Yeah.
they play
Right.
good cymbals though.
So I'd probably just
Yeah.
eat it to see how good it is. Ding, ding.
Ching. All right, before we sign off, it is
Okay.
also National Iced Latte.
Okay.
So our friends at Community Family Owned Coffee have provided a vanilla waffle cone, coffee iced latte flavor,
All right.
also a mocha white chocolate flavor, and one more is the caramels, praline, and cream. Andrew, which one do you want?
I'm going to try the vanilla waffle cone.
Chris, mocha or pralines?
Pralines.
Pralines, there it is. All right. Just crack that big boy open. Andrew, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your
Yeah,
time.
thank you for having me. Appreciate being on here.
When is the community event
For
for the church?
October 29th.
October
or
29th. Can we
the
put that on the show
7th.
notes?
Absolutely. Anyone in the
That's pretty
community
good.
is welcome to come.
Are
And
they?
it's free.
That's good.
Food's free, rides free, everything's free.
Well, even though we've only
We're
known
doing a petting
Don't
zoo this
forget.
year.
Don't
You got a
forget,
petting zoo?
guys,
Yeah.
Shake well before drinking.
Ooh, I didn't do that.
I didn't do that. I better put this on before.
I assumed
It
you
tasted
wouldn't
really
have
good.
read the directions.
No,
so.
I don't read directions. This is good though.
Smells good.
Hey, everybody go out and celebrate National Iced Latte Day
It is pretty
and Smarties Day. And as we always say, don't be sad it's over. Just be glad it happened. Thank you, Andrew. We'll see everybody next week.
Thank you for joining us. Drop us a line at media@perf-chem.com. Thanks to our title sponsor, Performance Chemical. How you get there matters to us.